Let's face the truth. Most people are too afraid to tell you to your face that they don't like you. Instead, they hide behind fake smiles, empty compliments, and forced politeness. I've been through it too, thinking someone was my friend only to find out they secretly wished for my failure. It's harsh, but here's the reality. If you don't pick up on these signs, you'll waste time and energy on people who deep down just don't get you. So, let's cut through the nonsense and talk about the signs that someone doesn't like you, but is trying to hide it. You might not like what you hear, but facing the truth is better than living in denial. 1. They always make jokes about your flaws. We all know someone who loves to joke, especially when the joke is about you. They'll criticize your habits, your mistakes, and your smallest quirks, all with a smile saying, "I'm just kidding." At first, it seems harmless, but let's be honest. These jokes are often subtle digs disguised as humor, chipping away at your self-esteem bit by bit. I once had a friend who always had something to say about me. The way I dressed, the way I talked, even the projects I was working on. At first, I laughed it off, thinking it was just harmless fun. But over time, I noticed a pattern. These jokes were always about my weaknesses, never my strengths. Soon, I started doubting myself, wondering if I was the problem, if these flaws were really that noticeable. The tough reality is, people who constantly make jokes about your flaws aren't doing it out of love. They're testing how much disrespect you'll tolerate. This is a subtle form of manipulation, a way for them to assert control while keeping you in a lower position. They're telling you that you're not worthy. And the worst part? They get away with it because we're conditioned to believe that if we can't take a joke, then we're the ones with the problem. But here's the flip side. I'm here to tell you there's nothing wrong with standing up for yourself when a joke has crossed the line. In fact, it's important. You deserve to be around people who lift you up, not those who bring you down just for a cheap laugh. Real friends don't need to point out your flaws to feel better about themselves. They'll celebrate your strengths and help you through your weaknesses without making you the punchline. I've seen it happen too many times. People let these jokes slide, thinking it's easier to keep the peace than to make a fuss. But here's a hard truth. Allowing others to disrespect you, even in the form of a joke, is a slippery slope. It starts with small comments, but over time, those jokes can wear you down, making you doubt your worth. And the more you allow it, the further they'll push until your confidence is shattered, all because you didn't want to seem too sensitive. I had to learn this the hard way. By laughing along, I was allowing them to continue. I was participating in my own disrespect. It wasn't until I started pushing back and setting boundaries that I noticed a change, not just in how they treated me, but in how I saw myself. I stopped letting their words define me and started owning my own story. So here's my advice. The next time someone jokes at your expense, don't just laugh it off. Ask yourself, is this actually funny, or is something else going on here? If it's the latter, don't hesitate to call it out. It might be uncomfortable. It might even end a friendship. But your self-respect is worth far more than some twisted sense of humor. Life is too short to surround yourself with people who can't see your value. If their idea of friendship is always pointing out your flaws, then it's time to find new friends. People who truly care about you will never need to tear you down to feel good about themselves. So stand firm, speak up, and don't let anyone reduce you to a punchline. 2. They give you compliments that feel like insults. We've all experienced it. Someone gives you a compliment, but instead of feeling good, you feel this bitter aftertaste, like you've just been slapped with a velvet glove. It's the kind of compliment that makes you stop and think, wait a minute, was that even a compliment or an insult? The harsh truth is, more often than not, it's both. These backhanded compliments are a subtle, almost sneaky way for people to undermine you while pretending to be kind. I remember working on a big project that I was really proud of. After countless hours of hard work, I finally shared it with a group of colleagues. One of them, someone I thought was supportive, said with a smile, "Wow, this is actually pretty good for someone like you." I stood there stunned. On the surface, it seemed like a compliment, but those last words, "for someone like you," hit me like a ton of bricks. What did that even mean? Was I somehow not capable of doing good work? Here's the kicker. These so-called compliments are really part of a hidden agenda. They're not meant to lift you up. They're designed to keep you in your place. It's a power play, a way for the compliment giver to assert their superiority while making you question your own abilities. They're saying, "I see you trying, but you'll never be as good as me." It's toxic, but it's wrapped up in such a pretty package that you almost miss the poison inside. Let's be honest. People who give backhanded compliments are often the ones who lack confidence. They see your potential, your strength, and it scares them. So they use these subtle digs to keep you doubting yourself and to make sure you don't reach too high. It's like they're patting you on the back while holding you down with the other hand. And here's something deeper. We've all done it at some point. Maybe not with bad intentions, but we've let our insecurities show through a compliment that actually serves to remind someone of their place. But here's the profound takeaway. You don't have to accept this hostility disguised as kindness. You have the right to reject it, to see it for what it truly is, a reflection of their insecurity, not a measure of your worth. When someone says, "You're smarter than you look," or "This is pretty good considering you're new here," you don't have to swallow it. Call it out for what it is, even if that means facing the uncomfortable truth that they may not like you, or maybe even want to hold you back. Don't allow yourself to endure subtle disrespect. Find people who not only compliment you, but genuinely cheer for you from afar without setting conditions. You deserve support and love without the side of snark or assumptions about what you're worth. 3. They're never there when you need them. When you're going through a tough time, whether in work or personal life, you expect that your friends will be the first ones there for you, right? They should be the ones you can lean on. But if you notice there's a certain person who's never around when it matters, take note. This is not a good sign. A true friend won't only be there for the fun times. They'll be there when you need them too. If someone only shows up when life is good, but is nowhere to be found when things get rough, it might mean they don't really value the relationship as much as you think. I once had a friend I'd always supported over the years, doing my best in their toughest times, always listening and offering advice. But when it was my turn to need a little support, they disappeared. No calls, no texts, not even a simple check-in. At first, I thought maybe they were just busy. But eventually, I realized that if the roles were reversed, they'd always be there. They just didn't like the fact that this relationship wasn't just one-sided. Here's the painful truth. Some people don't like you, but will keep you around for convenience. They enjoy having your support, but don't want to pay the price of reciprocating that support. You're not someone they can count on. You're someone they can call when they need something. So, be careful with these people. They'll say sweet things, but when you really need a helping hand, they won't be there. And this can become a pattern. They'll only appear when they need you, while you're always left reaching out for help and noticing they never respond in kind. This is where you need to draw a line. Instead of letting this continue, confront them. Ask questions and see what they say. You'll find that these people rarely have a valid excuse. They simply don't care enough. Remember, relationships should be a two-way street. If you feel like you're always there for them with no reciprocity, that's a clear sign something is wrong. You deserve friends who will stand by you, not only in happy moments, but when you need a shoulder to lean on. You don't have to endure this disrespect. Find people who truly value you and are willing to pay the price of friendship. 4. They talk about you behind your back. There's nothing worse than finding out that people you trust are talking about you behind your back. They may never say it to your face, but you know they're discussing you somewhere out of earshot. These signs can be subtle, but pay attention. When someone doesn't like you, they'll often talk about you behind your back to devalue you without having to confront you directly. I once experienced this. I had a close group of friends, and although everything seemed fine, I started hearing negative things about myself from people outside the group. They'd say, "I heard they don't like how you did that," or "It seems like you're not well liked." And I wondered, how do they know that? I realized that my so-called friends were actually discussing me when I wasn't around. This can create a vicious cycle. They feel more comfortable talking about you privately, but they lack the courage to say it to your face. If you notice that these people never defend you when something unfair happens, ask yourself why. They might not like you, but they don't want to take responsibility for that lack of respect. And here's a deep truth. If they can't face you to say these things, they're probably not really good friends. Real friends will stand up for you even when you're not around. They won't participate in unhealthy discussions, and they certainly won't try to make you look bad in front of others. Look for people who will protect you, who will say, "No, that's not like them at all." And let go of those who join in on behind-the-scenes gossip. You don't need people in your life who you can't trust, who aren't strong enough to stand up for you. You deserve to have solid relationships where people feel comfortable talking directly to you instead of hiding behind sneaky discussions. We've just covered some powerful insights that may have helped you see things from a fresh perspective. Maybe you've started to feel new thoughts and emotions taking shape, things that make you stop and think. That's exactly why we're on this journey together, to discover the aspects of life we sometimes overlook in our daily routines. Now, let's continue exploring with the next set of signs, a part that's just as important, helping us see the bigger picture and deepen our understanding. 5. They constantly compare you to others. This is another way people try to put you down without coming off as rude. They'll compare you to someone else, saying things like, "That person does this better than you," Or, why aren't you more like them? This can be incredibly hurtful, but it's essential to recognize that this isn't about you. It's about their insecurity. I had a coworker who loved comparing me to another colleague. They'd say things like, "They always finish the job faster than you." Or, "Did you see how well they presented that?" It made me feel like I was never good enough. But looking back, I realized that coworker was just trying to feel superior. They were comparing themselves to me through my work and felt that putting me down would make them look better. Remember, this isn't a competition between you and others. It's about them facing their own insecurities. They don't want you to shine because that would make them feel lacking. And when they feel insecure, they'll always try to pull you down to make themselves feel better. So, the next time someone tries to compare you to someone else, look at the truth behind it. It's not about you. It's about their insecurity. You don't need to let these comparisons affect your sense of worth. Remember that everyone has their own path, and just because you're not achieving the same things as someone else doesn't mean you're any less valuable. Seek out people who will lift you up, people who are genuinely happy for you and don't need to compare you to others to feel good about themselves. 6. They get a kick out of your struggles. One of the clearest signs that someone doesn't like you is when they can't hide their pleasure when you're struggling. They might not be obvious about it, but you'll see it in their expressions, the satisfaction on their face. Look out for these signs. They may be subtle, but they're telling. I've seen this happen with an acquaintance. When I mentioned that I was struggling with a project, they smirked and said, "Well, that's what you deserve." It was a deeply uncomfortable feeling, but I realized that they didn't just dislike me. They actually felt good seeing me struggle. When someone finds joy in your troubles, it means they don't see you as a friend, but as an opponent. They want to see you fail because it makes them feel better about themselves. This is a strong sign that they don't like you and don't want to see you succeed. Instead of letting this get you down, confront it. Remember that your success isn't a threat to people who genuinely care about you. True friends will feel joy when you're shining and will never seek satisfaction from your setbacks. Look for friends who will stand by you, not only in good times, but also when you're going through challenges. Because in the end, those are the people who deserve your friendship. 7. They change the subject. When you talk about yourself, have you ever been in a situation where you're excitedly sharing something about your life, a recent accomplishment, or a personal experience, and the other person just doesn't care? They quickly change the subject, steering the conversation in a different direction, as if what you're saying doesn't matter. This can be frustrating, and it's a clear sign they're not invested in you or your life. I once had a friend who constantly avoided conversations when I talked about myself. Whenever I'd share an exciting update, I barely got to finish my story before they'd jump in and change the topic completely. At first, I thought they just forgot, but eventually, I realized they didn't want to hear about my successes or struggles. It felt like my life was just a nuisance to them. What's worth noting is that this behavior often reflects deep insecurity. They might feel threatened by your successes, or simply lack the emotional capacity to engage in your experiences. Whatever the reason, this isn't a healthy relationship. Real friends are genuine listeners. They care about your life, ask questions, and truly want to hear about your experiences. If you notice someone frequently changing the subject when you're speaking, it's time to reassess the relationship. You can address this directly by saying, "I've noticed that when I share things about my life, you tend to change the topic. Is there a reason for that?" Their response will reveal a lot about how they feel. Life is too short to surround yourself with people who don't value your worth. Facing the truth about these relationships can be painful, but it's necessary for protecting yourself and finding friends who genuinely support and love you. These people will lift you up and share in your joy and sorrow without needing to take something from you.